right, welcome in on this Sunday night Michigan Basketball Live. All right, I'm Dennis Fithian, joined by Jim Scarcelli. And Jim, the Vegas main event, Michigan went out there. They got to the championship game here tonight, but nothing went right for them. 80-62, the final. Arizona, an unranked team, but the announcer, John Schriffen, at one point said, this is the best, not top 25 team in the country. And, he was right. I don't know if he's right, but they look like a top 25 team. Not a good performance from the Wolverines anywhere. What are your thoughts here initially as the game has just gone final? The Wolverines lose it by 18. They've played 5 games. They're 3-2 on the year.
Yeah, preseason rankings are so hard to figure out with so many freshmen and transfers, and I don't know. That's why luckily the basketball, we have a tournament to figure it all out. But look, we're a young team. I don't know that we're ever going to really have another 3-point shooter consistent other than Eli Brooks. I think we got to find a way. We're hoping Houston can develop. We're hoping Brandon Johns gets his confidence. We're hoping Williams gets his confidence, but, we got to find other ways to score. And that was a real big team, and we just couldn't do much on the low block. And every time Hunter was getting the ball, and because we don't have shooters, like I talked about the other day, they're just double. As soon as he gets the ball, they're doubling him. They are not letting Hunter Dickinson because there's no outside threat. So it continues to be the same thing. But I thought there was effort. Our guys are playing hard. There's so many young kids that are just playing hard. There's good effort. I took exception to Robbie Hummel saying that we didn't have effort. Our kids are playing hard. We just aren't quite as good as we need to be, and haven't played enough together. But, we got to just keep grinding.
There's things that are hard to predict when it comes to college basketball. One is freshmen, is highly touted as some of them are. Some of them hit the ground running. They get in there and they look like, it's a seamless transition. Others, it takes a little bit of time. We're seeing a little bit of that. And, you can say the same thing about transfers. Sometimes you hit the jackpot like Michigan did last year. Mike Smith and Shawnee Brown, both of those guys came in. They had roles, and, they had players around them too. But and it doesn't mean that Devontae Jones can't develop and get this thing in time, maybe by the Big Ten where it starts. But last year, we saw a team go 11-0, and it was like, wow, man, Michigan basketball is back. They went 18-2. They kind of, they were running away with things. And, so a little bit of that was expected, especially with Hunter Dickinson coming back. You're like, man, All-American, let's go. But we're finding out that, that these parts, putting them together, and it's going to be a process. And, I'm not ready to slam my fist down and say, it can't be done. They're not making the tournament. They can't win the Big Ten. I think everything's still on the table for them. It's just, it's been a rough start here of them trying to find their way. And I don't know, what's the biggest thing here you think where they regroup and try to move forward here? They got a manageable game coming up on Wednesday against Tarleton. Before they got a pretty lengthy break, and then they have to go down and play North Carolina at Chapel Hill. What do you think the biggest thing is that they can work on to regroup and just try to put their, one foot in front of the other here at this point?
I think Juwan is what we saw today is he's not comfortable with anything yet. He's giving players opportunities. He's still trying his team out. We saw Frankie Collins. He got a lot of work tonight. He got a lot of clock, and Buffkin got times. He put Adrian Nunez in there. So I think luckily we got 3 more non-league games, and then we get in the league game. And luckily we open up with Nebraska and Minnesota. Those are 2 games that we, hopefully we can win, and then we get a bunch more non-league games. So we got, if we can get ready for Minnesota and Nebraska. But to pinpoint one thing, these young guys need reps. Brendan Johns got to get his confidence because, defensively, we're still making a lot of young guy mistakes because they haven't played together enough. But, I think for me to answer that, I don't know that I can because I don't know that Juwan can answer it. He's trying out a lot of guys, trying to figure out what's going to work.
No, good point there. I think a common thread that I've seen people talking about in this game tonight and really through the first 5 games. And I thought you mentioned it right there. They need to find a third scorer. They need to find some outside shooting. They need to find a third scorer. I thought heading into the season that Caleb Houston, like he was going to have to be a volume shooter. He was going to have to be a knockdown 3 shooter. And right now, that shot, whether it's just adjusting to the speed of the game, whatever it's going to be there, he's had some bad misses. He being able to find that's going to be key. Like one thing you can say, it can't take him all year, but it could take him a couple weeks here. It's still like that can happen. So getting his confidence in there, and the candidates to be that third scorer would be Caleb Houston, and right after that, even though when he came in, Devontae Jones, I mean, he was a big time scorer at Coastal Carolina. And I watched some of his news conferences before the game, before the season, and he was like, "Well, no, I'm a pass first point guard, but he could be somebody that they need a little bit more scoring from. He's getting into some foul trouble, so that's hurting him. But those are the 2 guys that I look to at least for me. And when you're talking about Jones, somebody that has the experience. I mean, he was the Player of the Year at Coastal Carolina. And then I know he was ranked high, and that's part of it, but also just what he is supposed to bring, which is the outside shooting. Caleb Houston, they're going to need him, whether it's a week, 2 weeks, or a month, to really be a knockdown 3-point shooter. It's still possible, and if those guys can do a little bit of that, I think that this team can develop and find its way. They're not going to go on runs where they're going to win 10, 12 games in a row, like, they did last year with a 11-0 start, but, they can still battle and have all those things,
You bring up a good point that I didn't think about, that, Jones might end up being the guy that can sit at the 3-point line a little more and let a guy like Houston drive, or let somebody else drive, and Hunter can find him. Because I think he's shown he can make a 3. He just hasn't. I think he made one today, but I think he might be the guy that could do that. Watching Diabate today, you just see the difference between a 21-year-old kid who's been in the weight room for Arizona, and then Diabate. He's a good, he's playing hard. He's an athletic kid, but you can just tell he was getting pushed around in there a little bit. He reminds me a lot of Chris Webber as a freshman. He's a big and athletic kid. Going to have to work on his shooting, but he reminds me of a lot of a young Chris Webber.
If the other night, I certainly know what you were saying when he was stealing the ball, going down, throwing it down against UNLV. He was fantastic. I think ultimately, a lot of people want to know what their best lineup is. I think you might say, hey, Brandon Johns to the bench, maybe Moussa Diabate in the starting lineup. I think that would be their best 5. But, the one thing, and it was like last year, Austin Davis was in the starting lineup. I mean, Hunter freaking Dickinson, they waited until they put him in, until there was an injury there. So, trying to figure out what your best 5 is on a night like tonight. I think, just thinking about going to 6, going to 7. I mean, Diabate and Terrence Williams, certainly the guys coming in on the front line. And then I do think Frankie Collins and Kobe Buffkin are the guys that you're bringing into the backcourt. I think the wild card there is Zeb Jackson. Remember, he hasn't touched the floor yet. And he was somebody as a freshman, got a little bit more time late in the year. He could be somebody that could get in there and give him a little bit of a lift too.
Yeah, you're right. But I was looking again at some of my notes here. Caleb Houston did some things we hadn't seen. He finished strong at the rim, but he shot 2 air balls today, maybe even a third at the end. So he's just got to keep. But Frankie Collins, that's what I saw last year when I saw him in high school, how he took the ball to the hole. Early when he was getting his first couple of minutes in the game, he took the ball to the hole. So, Collins, Buffkin, those are 2 guys. And I really think Jones is a better player when he can come out of the game and get a little bit of a rest. Because I think when he gets tired, he makes more mental mistakes when he gets tired.
Yeah, and staying out of foul trouble would be one thing. We've seen that a couple. The second one he got was an offensive foul. The the refs were calling a pretty tight one there in the early going, so that was a tough one, so he had to go to the bench. Frankie Collins looks like a true point guard, just a matter of how quickly he can get up where you feel like he could run the team and take some of those minutes there. But I don't know, so we talked about regrouping, finding a scorer, getting a third scorer in there. The thing to me, though, that I think Juwan Howard will talk about, if he's probably talking about it right now in Vegas, is that, and you mentioned the effort part, the defensive lapses in this one. And, the Wildcats have a pretty potent front line, and they got some guys that were big. You could see physically they could go up and throw it down. But, it got to be a little bit of an alley-oop session there in the second half. And, I know they're not going to like that when they watch the film there. A little too many easy buckets there for the Wildcats when they started throwing it down. Maybe they get tired, whatever, the game gets out of hand. You see some of that. But I think that's going to be the most disappointing thing that Juwan Howard will identify when you talk about, this game tonight. You're going to lose some games. You're going to get some one-sided games. But the defense not being there like it wasn't in the second half, not good.
Yeah, that's just mental repetitions. They got to play more. He's got to have more awareness. Diabate let that happen a couple of times. I'm watching him like, don't you see the guy? And they just need to play more and have better court awareness. Something that was bugging me, and I don't know if this is a coaching thing or not. How many charges we had? We only got one. But we must have had 4 or 5 go against us. We got to do a better job of recognizing, when to pull up when you're driving the lane. And I don't know. Sometimes when it happens once or twice, okay, but it happened a lot. You got to wonder how much that's being emphasized from the coaching staff. That happened so often to us. But Denny, look, I'm not discouraged. I am not ever at any point should we even think about being discouraged with freshmen the way they're playing. It's the older guys that I'm losing my patience with, that I was expecting a little more of them. But freshmen, we got to be real patient with freshmen, and hopefully 8-10 more games in, they'll be we'll be a little in better shape come Big Ten play.
Yeah, people are asking me about the shooting and the identity of this team. Like, they're going to have to shoot better. Like we've already talked about Caleb Houston. I mean, like, he can't be, sending him up there and having 0 for 5s or whatever he ended up being tonight. He's got to dial it in. He's going to be a volume shooter from out there, and it's got to happen. Now, it doesn't have to happen immediately, but, that'd be my answer for the shooting. What about an identity? If somebody asked you, hey, you've watched this Michigan basketball team play 5 games. What's their identity? What would you want their identity to be moving forward? Kind of a 2-part question there.
Yeah,
where it's at right now from what you've seen, where you want it to be.
I think we really got to focus on being better defensively. We got to be we're not going to be a team that's going to score a bunch of points. We got to really, really hammer in and do a great job defensively, be smarter on defense, not give second shots, communicate better. We've got athleticism. We've got good athletes where, we should play better defense and be a great defensive team. Okay. We have to be able to do that. We're going to have to win games in low scoring games. And then offensively, we got to be smart shot takers, try to get to the rim, but we've got to find ways to score where we don't live and die with the 3-point shot, because it's obvious we don't have livers sitting out there at that 3-point. We don't have those kind of guys sitting at the 3-point line. We got to find ways to score where we can't count on 3-point shooting to win a game for us. Danny, I think that might be one of the reasons I'm seeing Juwan play. He's got the 2 big guys away from the bucket. I think he's trying to do some things maybe to free up so guys can drive the lane. I'm trying to figure out what his strategy is with the 2 big guys, how he brings them both away from the low post. He brings them out near the foul line.
Yeah, and, if we were sitting here and I just told you that Michigan went 1 of 14 from downtown for the game, you could say, hey, this is going to be a tough one for them. It was like against Seton Hall back on Tuesday. They didn't hit a 3-pointer until you got almost midway through the second half. That ultimately, it just made the game, tighter. When you have the other team, it's a great equalizer over there, and it came down to a 1-possession game against Seton Hall. It never did get like that tonight against the Wildcats, but obviously they got to shoot better. I mean, if they're going to go and only make one 3-pointer, then people talking about, this could be, this thing could go sideways. But I'm expecting that they're going to get better shooting. I'm expecting that Caleb Houston is not going to go 0 for 5, and that Brandon Johns. I'm not looking for many 3-pointers from him, but Devontae Jones, Eli Brooks can shoot it. Devontae Jones, when he shot 37% from 3 last year. He needs to be a 3-point shooter for this team. And I don't know what Williams can bring or Buffkin or Collins from the 3-point line, but that's they got to be better than that. Yeah. And I think that they can be better.
No, I get it, but at the same time, you got to find ways to score without expecting something that hasn't been proven yet. Because remember I told you a couple days back, I said how I would defend Michigan. That's exactly what Arizona did. They just doubled Hunter every time on the low block, and they never left Brooks alone. Brooks never was left alone. But, you got to hope that these guys eventually get their confidence and start making threes. But I think you hit something there too. See, Jones is the guy driving all the time, driving and kicking. So he's not the one at the 3-point line. But if Houston and some of these other players are starting to drive, Jones has shown that he could probably be the next best guy that could knock down perimeter shots to open up the lane.
Yeah, and I think something that you said, and it was right out of the gate, like I asked you the question about what's their best lineup, and you said, I don't think Juwan Howard knows what his best lineup is in his rotations, and we've seen that. He's brought different guys in, and he's going Diabate played well the other night. He was the first one off the bench, and Terrence Williams, we know that he's going to come in, and you would identify him on the front line as being a 6-man and coming in and being able to do something. Although he could play the 2, 3, and the 4. Although he had some problem with some of that size that the Wildcats were throwing at him. It really comes back to the backcourt. You already mentioned it. Nunez, Frankie Collins, Kobe Buffkin. What happens when they get Zeb Jackson into the mix there? They've got to find that play for the point guard. They got to find somebody that can shoot it from out there. And the biggest thing to underscore here is they've got some time now to work on this. And, they've Tarleton coming up on Wednesday, long Thanksgiving break. Then it's North Carolina. Now, without knowing what the Tar Heels, that's going to be a hard game. Going, waltzing into, going down there to Tobacco Road. You don't just go out there and take on the power.
Good. I saw them briefly against Purdue. They're good. So we're going there. But hey, we got to win some of these because they're going to have an impact on the tournament, on your chances of making the tournament. So these games do matter. But we want to get better for Big Ten play. But we got to get some wins here as we get into Big Ten play, because Big Ten wins are going to be real tough. The league looks pretty good. Purdue looks good. Michigan State looks better. Illinois is good. I saw them play. So we got to get some experience. Hopefully, get some wins and keep getting better.
Yeah, and Tarleton, the next game, and North Carolina. I mentioned San Diego State after that. Like you don't automatically. You might have before the season just went ahead and put a W up there. Not you. You're coach, former coach. You're not automatically putting W's up there. I was hanging some W's up there. I'm not automatically putting one up there for that one right now. Well, any final thoughts? I mean, it was 80-62. Usually you run down the players and say, hey, this guy, that guy, but. I didn't really think there was anything to hang their head on here tonight. This might be one where they just want to leave the tape. What's the saying in Vegas, Scar?
What happens in Vegas stays in Vegas. Well, hopefully,
keep it in Vegas, man. Just keep it there.
Hopefully our guys saw a nice little trip. Maybe he took them to the old Pawn Stars. You can go see Pawn Stars where they filmed that show. That's right there in Vegas. Because, the guys can't go to a casino. You got to be 21. And then they have the
Jones, Ken, and hopefully they had more luck at the craps table than they did the shooting 3. I don't know, like it's all jokes now. Keep everything in Vegas. Well, I got one final question. It's got nothing to do with basketball. It's got to do with football. The game's coming up on Saturday. We talked a lot about it yesterday, but you get a day to sleep on it. You wake up, and then you start thinking about Saturday all over again and Michigan's chances here I did see the odds makers put the number out, and it came out to be 7.5. What are you thinking about for Saturday? Somebody told me when I said, I give Michigan a 35% chance. Guy told me, hey, you got to think positive. You got to stop thinking about anything 35% or anything else. You got to think about winning the game. What are you thinking about when it comes down to Saturday?
Yeah, Denny, I'm thinking more and more positive. I looked at Michigan's some of the Maryland game again. Looked at some Ohio State again, and it's going to be cold. It's going to be bitterly cold. Nice around 34 degrees around kickoff. That's good weather for the Wolverines in the run game. I think our run game is, because it's just a little more difficult to throw when it's so cold like that. Okay, so I like that. That's Michigan run game weather. I'm getting more and more confident every day as we get closer to Saturday.
7.5. That's where it's sitting right now.
I think listen, I get it. I understand it. But we're home and our guys we're healthy. We're confident. I'm just getting, and I'm thinking the players, because that's how it was when I played. Every day as you get closer to Saturday, man, your confidence builds. And they're going to have a great week of practice. And Bo used to always shorten practice this week, and I'm sure Coach Mo and Coach everybody did that. This week you have very, very short practices. You don't need to do much. Get everybody just because people are so excited, so fired up. You don't want to beat them up in practice because it's an intense week. But it's a fast week and a lot of energy, and the whole building will be all balloons and all decorated. But yeah, I'm confident, man. The more I think about things and seeing that nice cold weather report, it's gonna be blue skies in Ann Arbor Saturday. Blue skies. That's something we used to say all the time, Denny, regardless of the weather. So how's the weather looking out there? Blue skies, meaning Michigan blue. It's Michigan blue skies all day Saturday.
Hey, you know what? I'm hoping for blue skies then, Scar. Thanks for your time here. We'll talk with you this week in anticipation of that game on Saturday. Thanks for your time, as always.
All righty, go blue.